Appreciate you joining me today. It is June 13th. Our reading today comes from Second Kings, the first three chapters, Second Kings 1 through 3. We begin by Elijah denouncing Ahaziah. This is the account where they send, a captain with 50, and fire comes down, consumes them, and then another 50, and fire consumes them. And then someone finally has a little humility and pleads with Elijah. And pardon me if I said Elisha before, pleads with Elijah, and he's spared. There in those first few verses, the angel of the Lord says, "Go down with him. Do not be afraid of him." So they go down. And that's how it starts. Chapter 2 then is Elijah's being taken up to heaven, and then the passing of the mantle to Elisha. Verse 9, "Please let a double portion of your spirit be upon me." Remember, they cross the Jordan, they're heading eastward, Jordan splits, and then Elisha comes back. And so that's chapter 2. And to just go through it, it's also where Elisha curses, when he comes back, curses the youths as the two female bears come out and maul 42 of them. Chapter 3 now. We're going to look at Jehoram, the son of Ahab, became king over Israel at Samaria. And what's going to happen, and what we're going to come back to verse 2 and here in just a second. And he persists in being evil. But then when he came to power, look at verse 7. "The king of Moab has rebelled against me. Will you go fight with me to Moab?" He comes to Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. So the king of Israel comes to the king of Judah. Moab has rebelled. He comes, he says, "Will you go fight against Moab?" Jehoshaphat says, "I'll go up. I am as your people. Which way should we go?" They go by the wilderness of Edom, and the king of Edom goes along with them. They marched on that roundabout route 7 days. They got no food, they got no water, all that good stuff. The king of Israel, the king of Israel, not the king of Judah, the king of Israel, that would be Jehoram. The king of Israel said, "Alas," verse 10, "for the Lord has called these three kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab." That's big talk. Jehoshaphat says, "Is there a prophet here?" Right? This sounds familiar, doesn't it? "Is there a prophet here?" And one of the servants of the king of Israel says, "Well, Elisha's here. He's the one who helped Elijah." And Jehoshaphat said, "Oh, the word of the Lord is with him." So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the king of Edom, they go to Elisha. They show up, verse 13, "Elisha said to the king of Israel, 'What have I to do with you?'" And this is where we get into it. "What have I to do with you? Go to the prophets of your father and the prophets of your mother." He's saying, you go to those pagan prophets. "What have I to do with you? Go to them." But the king of Israel said to him, "No, for the Lord has called these three kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab." Elisha said, "As the Lord of hosts lives, before whom I stand, surely, were it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, I would not look at you nor see you. But now bring me a musician." And then it happened, when the musician played, that the hand of the Lord came upon him. Okay, so what do we have? We have these three kings. We have king of Israel coming to the king of Judah saying, "Need your help with the Moabites." They go through Edom. King of Edom tags along. "Oh, these three kings the Lord has brought together." And they show up to Elisha. And Elisha says, "What are you doing here?" And to think about this king, Jehoshaphat, and what was this king is Jehoram. We'll say this because what's going to happen is the Lord is going to defeat the Moabites. Okay, so these three kings show up, and the Moabites are going to be defeated. Pardon me for just repeating that. As an application, look at verse 25. "They destroyed the cities. Each man threw a stone on every good piece of land and filled it." I don't want you to lose sight of verse 14. As the Lord of hosts lives, before whom I stand, surely were it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, I would not look at you, nor see you. And to make this point, we should not take victory as approval. When things go our way, that doesn't mean that God approves of us. This guy is evil. Jehoram he's wicked. He's a wicked man. And when he shows up to Elisha, Elisha says, you go talk to your own prophets. Right? You just march right on over there and you go talk to your own people. And lo and behold, the Moabites are defeated. Does that mean that the Lord approves of what the wicked king of Israel is doing? No, he's wicked. Don't take victory as victory doesn't always mean approval. That's one. Secondly, don't take association as approval. Because, okay, you got the king of Judah to go along with you, and Elisha says it. When Elisha says, if it were not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, I would not look at you. Just because you're with him, that does not mean that I approve of you. I'm not too sure Jehoshaphat should have been with him, frankly, based on yesterday's study. But don't take association as approval. Just because you're in the same room with someone, just because you're in the same room with a good guy, that doesn't make you good. And it's just as an application for us, we need to remember it. We should also not take the fact, and let's look back at our passage. And back earlier in the chapter, the verse I said we'd come back to, verse 2, he did evil in the sight of the Lord, but not like his father and mother, for he put away the sacred pillar of Baal that his father had made. Nevertheless, he persisted in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel sin. He did not depart from them. Okay, so he didn't do evil like Ahab and Jezebel did. So he didn't do that. Did that make him good, though? No, he was less evil. But the lesser of two evils is still evil. And he did evil in the sight of the Lord. He still persisted in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat. Sometimes we think, well, I'm not as bad as I used to be. Well, are you still bad? Are you still sinning? Are you still defying the Lord? Well, yeah, but not as much as I used to. Don't take that. Don't take just being better as approval. I'm glad he wasn't like Ahab and Jezebel. I'm glad he wasn't going around killing the prophets of the Lord. Hooray. He's still sinning like Jeroboam did. He's still doing evil. It's just not as bad as Ahab. Not as bad as Ahab and Jezebel. But he's still wicked. And Elisha says, you go talk to your own people. And Elisha calls him out, frankly. So we might think about our points. Don't take victory as approval. Don't take association as approval. And don't take just because we're not as bad as we used to be as approval. It's not the case. Appreciate you. Hope it's been helpful for you. Please join us for our next look into God's Word.